These are members of a Wednesday night community sing in Atlanta, Georgia. They have two things in common. They like to sing, and they like to drink. They are all alcoholics, including the grandmother at the piano. This is Linda. She's 27 years old.
I would get up in the morning, I would have enough without his knowing it. My husband wasn't aware that I was drinking of a morning. But I would get up and have 2 or 3, enough to get me downtown. Between 8:15 and 8:30, I drank from a half a pint to a half a pint. By noontime, I drank the same amount. That afternoon, I would have 2 or 3 more to get me through till after closing time was work, and then I'd drink about a pint at night.
This is Billy. She's 43 years old.
From about 16 years old till 27, I drank constantly, you know, off and on. And at 27, I was committed to Milledgeville. Due to the damage I think that alcohol had caused, I broke down. Well, my family disowned me, and they've never had any use for me since.
This is Shirley. She's 24 years old.
I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I can do to straighten my feelings out. I don't want to hurt anymore. I don't want to drink anymore. I don't want to go to jail anymore. I don't want to feel like an animal anymore.
This is Joe. He's 47 years old.
I got too much to live for. You've seen my family, the photograph I showed you. I got too much to stay around for. At least I got to see them through.
This is Chuck. He's 52 years old.
I got the shock of my life one evening, the youngest daughter that's at home. Wife and I were arguing from opposite rooms, for heaven's sakes, across the hall. Both drunk. She stepped into the hall and says, "Will you two shut up? You're driving me crazy." And she was bawling. I guess that's about the smallest I ever felt in my life.
And this is Bob. He's 37 years old.
To begin with, I know I'm wrong when I'm drinking. I know it. We're not happy. We are the most miserable people on the face of this earth.
We are the richest nation in the world. Our medicine is the most advanced. But for all our money and all our skill, the alcoholics among us are shamefully and consistently shortchanged. We prefer to ignore them, to neglect them, to reject them. We refuse to understand their torment. We question their character. We'd rather preach to them than respond to their plight. That's what the authorities in the field say, and they are right. In most communities, the only consistent interest in the plight of alcoholics is shown by Alcoholics Anonymous. It is a worldwide organization, and it helps many. But it isn't by itself the answer to the problem. Everywhere, the gap between what is needed and what exists is readily apparent. And everywhere, that gap is wide.
Matt, you have too much to drink tonight? Yeah. Huh?
This is the alcoholic everyone knows. He accosts you on the street for money. He's dirty, unshaven, reeking from cheap wine. We think of him as a worthless bum, a public nuisance, a legal headache.
Let me see if he has any weapons.
But there's also a human side, one which we tend to ignore.
What's it been like, Willie? What's your life been like the last 25 years? How'd you describe it?
Terrible.
Do people frighten you?
Yeah.
Do we frighten you now?
Kids frighten me. Dogs frighten me. Every time I see a bunch of kids walking down the streets, I cross the street, get away from them.
Well, what about when you're drunk?
Drunk, I ain't worried about nothing.
How do you get your money for your drinks?
I beg it.
You ever sell blood?
I sell blood. I sold more blood every 8 weeks I sell blood.
How much do you get for your blood?
$5.
What does that buy you?
Buys me $5 worth of drinks.
What do you do with most of your time?
I'm a lonely man. I just walk the streets.
Why do you drink, Willie?
That's a hard question to ask. Why I drink. You want the truth?
I want the truth. As much as you know the truth, tell it to me.
Well, I found myself, I drink because I'm lonely. I don't have no friends.
You have
And
any...
I drink because I get lonely and disgusted. And sometimes I get angry at somebody and I drink then. But most of the time it's loneliness.
Do you know you're crying right now?
Huh?
Do you know that you're crying right now?
Yeah.
Why are
I'm
you
lonely
crying?
right now.
Right now with all of us in this room?
Yeah, I know. The problem, I ain't got a friend either.
In most cities, derelict alcoholics like Willie are banished to Skid Row areas. As long as they stay there, the police leave them alone. But in Atlanta, it's different. There, people like Willie are repeatedly arrested for public drunkenness and shuffled back and forth to the city prison farm despite recent high court decisions which recognize chronic alcoholism as a valid defense against a charge of public drunkenness. This is Rudolph. He's been arrested hundreds of times.
When I came up the Iowa Street as an ordinary criminal, I was processed in here, put on a work detail. I've been working ever since. If a man is a man of money, you never see him in the jails. But a poor person is a victim of circumstances, more or less. We've turned out to be alcoholics. We've got nobody to help us, and we can't help ourselves.
What kind of help would you like to get?
I would like to get on some kind of alcoholic program, a rehabilitation program. I would like to have something to more or less, I'm a nervous type anyway. I would like to have some therapy of some description and maybe take job training or something like that.
But there's more to the arrest than keeping Atlanta clean. The prison farm is the only place where Rudolph can be dried out. Periodic detoxification can be a matter of life or death. Every morning into this courtroom in Atlanta, hundreds of Skid Row alcoholics are brought before Municipal Judge Robert Jones.
All rise.
Be seated. Rudolph Hammond? Yes, sir.
For all that we had learned about the revolving door in which people like Rudolph are caught, we didn't expect to see him in court that day. Not that soon. But there he was, arrested one day after leaving the prison farm.
Rudolph?
Just got out the stockade day before yesterday.
Of course, jail is no place for any alcoholic.
No, I don't believe that.
Everyone knows that knows anything about alcoholism. But at the same time, I'm not going to turn you loose here every morning.
No, I won't do
and
that.
let you come back again the next morning, and then again the next morning, again the next morning.
I'm not going to do that.
Because I'm going to have to let you, if you come back
several mornings in a row, I'm going to still send you out there to get you detoxified. Now, when they get the detoxification unit in, of course, it won't do this. You'll be detoxified at the time you're arrested. And then when you come to court, I'll turn you loose immediately. But until they do get the detoxification unit, I'm going to have to detoxify you the only way I can.
I won't be back down here, I don't think. No time soon.
All right, have a seat, Rudolph.
At the end of the session, the judge dismissed Rudolph. He left the court with a friend. Less than 100 yards away, across the police parking lot, was a liquor store. Rudolph, knowing that we were following, couldn't care less and headed straight for the store. For Skid Row alcoholics, but Rudolph isn't ready for it. He continues to repeat the only ritual he knows. In St. Louis, Missouri, derelict alcoholics are no longer being arrested. The police treat them as sick people, not lawbreakers. Recently, they picked Harry off the sidewalk in downtown St. Louis. He was in a desperate state, mumbling that he didn't want to drink anymore. He begged the officers to empty a fifth of wine into the gutter. Harry had reached the periodic point where the alcohol had stopped working for him, where his body, undernourished and neglected, was being poisoned, and where his mind threatened to disintegrate.
What's his last? McCain?
McCain, M-C-C-A-N-N. You don't have a home address right now, do you, Harry?
What?
Are you married or single?
Divorced.
Divorced. And where was you born, Harry? What city and state?
Ashamed to say.
Where was it? That's all right. Don't be ashamed of it.
Hannibal, Missouri.
Hannibal, Missouri.
Just empty your pockets.
He'll give them back to you, Harry. You give them back. You get everything back. 71 cents you got, Harry. You got nothing else in your pockets now, right? You don't have any money hid anyplace, do you?
I looked for $5 the other day and I couldn't find it. You can find it, I'll give you half of it.
In a way, Harry is fortunate. He couldn't pick a better place for his drinking than St. Louis. His chances of staying alive are greater there than anywhere else. They don't have a drunk tank there. Instead, they have a first-rate detoxification center, where a man like Harry is in a clean bed and receiving expert medical attention minutes after his arrival.
Harry, you gonna open up your eyes and talk to me? Come on, buddy. What you been drinking today?
Pints of wine, another fifth I give the priest for the little fifth of full rate.
5 pints of wine and a fifth of what? Yeah, you put out a pretty good one, didn't you? Have you eaten anything today? Let's see what we can do here.
Took a piece again. So we got left.
Ten hours later, Harry was sober.
Do you remember us from last night? Do you remember sitting on the sidewalk downtown?
Yeah. I just sick and drinking, that's it. Just got the best of me.
Have you been here before? How long did you stay the last time?
7 days, that's 7 days.
Does this place help you, Harry?
Yeah, it helps me if I just help myself. I ain't got sense enough to help myself, I guess.
When you left here the last time, Harry, did you want to drink?
I said I wasn't going to drink anything when I walked out of the door. I prayed to God right over at church that I wouldn't, but he didn't help me.
Do you know why you drink? Why is that?
Because I ain't seen my kids about...
What did you say?
Because why, Harry? I haven't seen my kids in about 26 years.
Is there someone you want to say something to?
There's one person I'd like to say something to.
Who's that, Harry?
A sister over in the convent.
What would you like to tell her?
To write to my niece and see if she'd take me back.
Where's your niece now?
Greensburg, Indiana.
Why don't you ask your niece yourself?
I couldn't write no letter. God, I just wish she'd be able to take me back.
Think she'll take you back?
I don't know.
Would you like to stop drinking?
Yeah,
Why?
so I could live a little longer.
Harry, what do you think's going to happen to you if you keep drinking the way you've been?
God only knows.
Alcoholics like Harry are the lonely men who long ago set with family and friends. They disappear from time to time, some to die on cold nights in a hole in the ground or in a jail cell during withdrawal. Others, when alcohol has destroyed their brains, live out their lives in mental institutions. They make up less than 3% of the alcoholics in this country. They are the most difficult to rehabilitate and the most neglected. Nobody really knows what causes alcoholism. It could be a physiological factor, but to date, no one has been able to find one. And the psychological, social, and cultural roots have yet to be fully uncovered. But this much is known. The American alcoholic is a microcosm of our society. Businessmen and factory workers, lawyers and clergymen, doctors, housewives, teachers. It is estimated that there are 6 million alcoholics in the country. Yet there is no typical alcoholic. But all alcoholics do share a common dilemma, a destructive dependency on alcohol. They drink excessively to put themselves into a condition that is more tolerable than life without alcohol. Eventually, they find that the relief alcohol has given them is no longer possible. And when all else has been destroyed, they are left only with the pain. This was the situation that Gene found himself in at the age of 35. He's been living at the Central Islip Clinic for alcoholics for the past 5 months. Before that, long before that, he worked for a large corporation, lived in suburbia, and drank himself into a personal dead end.
Okay.
He couldn't talk about it then. He talks about it quite easily now.
I was living a textbook suburban life. A lovely home in the suburbs. Over the first 3 years of our marriage, 2 children, a boy and a girl. Really a Jack Armstrong family, you know. And, but I wasn't happy. My family life began to deteriorate, partly through the travel. I'd leave New York on a Monday evening and fly to maybe 3 or 4 cities a week, return Friday to New York, and get home Friday night. So my wife and family really only saw me for the weekend. And this began to tell after a while in our relationship, our personal relationship, regardless of what 2 people and how they feel about each other. 3 years of this, especially when the children are in they're babies, really. And this bothered my wife. And we'd argue about it. That's why I was drinking, because I wanted to turn off the thinking of my problems, my wife, my family. And I didn't have any solutions, and I didn't feel capable of finding any solutions. And I had to numb the frustration, the fear. And I was frightened. I kept pushing the company, pushing my boss. And to tell the truth, in looking back, I still haven't figured out why I was so stupid as to get myself in a bind of saying to a member of management, you either transfer me or I'm going to have to resign. Now, when you hold a gun against a man's head, you're ready to pull the trigger. And his position was, I'm awfully sorry, we can't transfer you. I resigned. But things came to a head at home, and I still wasn't employed, but I still had plenty of money. So I think I manufactured a fight, a blow-up. And my wife fell right into my hands by making one comment, please leave, and I never want to see you again. And oh, this was great. For an alcoholic who's I didn't believe it, but it got me out of the door anyway. But then finally the well ran dry, and this is going to happen. And with all the drinking, even if I had wanted to use my head and think constructively and say to myself, well, look, what are you going to do with your life? I wouldn't have been able to. I mean, alcohol had me. I could no more think logically, clearly. But I was broke, so I had to do something. So I ran home to my parents. That's what it breaks down to. I had no place else to go. Broke. Sold my car. And I ran home to my parents. And I sobered up.
How many months have you been living through what was going on?
Gene didn't stay sober. Living with his parents was destructive. To try to understand why, he acted out an incident at a psychodrama therapy session under the direction of Dr. Sheila Bloom.
What is on your mind?
Well, son, don't you have any friends that don't drink?
No, not in this town.
When you were out in that hospital, did you meet some? Isn't there many from around
Up
here?
there, spread to the four winds. Now, you know I don't have a car.
Well, whose fault is that?
Well, please, whose fault? Please, no, let's not go through that again. Let's not go back to when I was working for IBM, earning 15 grand a year, and had a lovely family and a lovely home. Please, let's not do that, huh? That's water under the bridge. I can't go back. So don't give me this, whose fault is that? It's my fault, all right? You happy? It's not your fault, it's mine. I'm a big boy now. I know the routine, and it's my fault.
You be your mother. You be him. Ask that, Mama. And don't bring that up. It's water under the bridge.
Well, you know, you don't have to get mad about it. We're only thinking of your good. Everything we've ever done for you has been for your own good. And you have to drink. You're nothing but a no good drunk. That's all you've been. Now, you blame us for everything. We didn't make you a drunk. You weren't a drunk when you left this home.
Look, he's been trying to help out. You went out to a movie, you had a good time. Leave him alone.
When you talk to me, you don't talk like that. Now that he's here, now all of a sudden he's all right.
He had a rough day.
You know the aggravation he's given us for the last few years. You know what he's thrown away. You know I'm ashamed to go see my grandchildren. How do you think I feel? One son, two grandchildren.
Every night the same thing.
Every night the same thing. Well, tell him. Don't tell me. I don't go out and drink.
Well, give
You
him a
want
chance.
me to stay home every night and listen to this every single night? Why shouldn't I get out of
You could stay home once in a while. Is that so hard to stay home?
This is the first night I've gone out
Is
in
this
a
home
whole
so
week.
hot? It was good enough for you before. It's good enough for you to live here when you come out of the hospital.
Now you be your father. You be your mother. What do you think about it?
My father?
You never seemed to appreciate anything. All you wanted to do was hang out in bars. You couldn't keep your own family together. And you're going to fall right back into the same pattern. I can see it.
Now, Mom, don't be so hard on him. Don't be so hard on him. Give him a chance. Give him a chance.
Why don't you speak your piece? You always tell me different when he's not here. Speak in front of him.
Well, you know, I don't like everything he does, but he's a man, and he's going to have to live his life.
When is he going to start acting like a man?
Well, Mom, he looks all right. There's nothing wrong with him. He wasn't drinking. What can you do?
Gene, how long would this go on at home?
Until
How
I
long?
said goodnight and went to bed.
All right, be yourself again. We'll shift one over. And now I want you to tell us how you felt.
I'm frustrated because it's pointless to talk. They're beyond reason, logic.
fairness, open-mindedness, forget it. I'm not saying I blame them, but that's the way it is. It's a situation. So I've come to the conclusion that I'm getting more and more angry. I don't want to blow my top altogether and say, look, I'm leaving tomorrow or whatever. And why I didn't want to do this is, I don't know about that, but so rather than have this situation between the three of us deteriorate altogether, I get out from under. I've got to leave.
Gene, you're an angry man.
Yes.
You know it.
Yes.
You learned that here, didn't you?
Yes.
Were you angry then, too, and maybe didn't know it? Well, did you complain a lot? Were you frustrated a lot?
No, I didn't complain, but I was frequently angry. But it always been a thing to me that a show of anger is a weakness. And so I didn't show it.
What'd you do about it?
Well, I drank so I wouldn't feel angry.
All right, that's where the alcohol came in, right?
I guess.
Other ways, too.
Yeah.
Now, what can alcohol do for anger?
Well, it can hide it. It covers it up.
Anything else that you use it for, then? You talk now about fear and anger. Were you afraid?
Yes. Right.
And what did you do about the fear?
Drank.
And what does drink do for fear? What does alcohol do for fear?
Nothing. It covers it up till there's no more, till the effect of the alcohol is worn off. Then you need more alcohol.
I mean,
This
it's
I
a nice
learned
tranquilizer, and everything is... How long did that go on in your life? Covering up things with alcohol, anger, fear, down?
2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm. And if I met you then, I'd say, how are things, Gene?
Yeah.
Great.
Right.
Great.
Top of the world.
How aware were you that they weren't so great? How aware were you that they weren't so great? How often in a day would this come through?
Every time it started to come through, I drank. And then my awareness of how ungreat things were would be subdued, submerged, and I was able to cope.
Mm-hmm. So alcohol was a friend to you then?
Yes.
It was a helper?
Yes.
It was a medicine?
Yeah.
Cure for all ills? I guess you ended up using it for sprained ankles and bunions and everything else?
Anything.
Anything bothers you, you take a drink?
Right.
Were you aware at all that you were doing this?
Yes, but I wasn't aware of what the end result would be.
Why does Gene drink?
Because he feels bad. He hurts emotionally. He aches. And he knows the one thing that will stop the aching, even if it makes him hurt much worse afterward, is alcohol. Well, he takes as much pain as he can, and then he says, I don't care, and then he drinks. So we want to, of course, show him how to relieve the aching without alcohol, or even stop it from aching at all.
What is the one thing you feel you have to do for him?
We have to break through his loneliness, I think, his aloneness.
You've seen Gene come here 3 times. Realistically, what do you see for him in the future?
I've treated other men like Gene and seen them succeed and have successful, satisfying lives, and I think he's capable of doing the same. He's quite a problem to treat because he fights every step of the way, but I don't see any reason why he shouldn't make it, if that's what you're asking.